I want to start back in 2009. You were dating all kinds of girls, teachers, cops, and lawyers, and doctors too. Tell me about younger Virgil and the CH connection.
You found that deep thing buried. That's insane, Greg. That's insane that you found that. I will tell you the story later. Yeah, back in the day 2009, I was working for a production company, or basically a company that covers big concerts. I was a cameraman. And every end of the year, we would make a little movie for all the people to watch around Christmas time, to bond. And the idea was to go crazy. And we made this crazy ass clip. I mean, really taken by it because nobody knows if somebody sees this, yeah, they go crazy. But yeah, that were wild times. So yes, that was what I was doing in 2009. Incredible.
Okay. We don't have to talk too much about it. Don't worry. I won't put you on blast. I'm not going to share it with anyone unless we get in a fight. I have something that I can hang over
Yeah,
your head.
definitely.
It's already downloaded locally. I got it.
I
No, I'm
know.
just kidding. Okay, let's move forward. But look, you've come a long way since then. You've only recently started creating on X. You have been very tactical with your growth and your networking. In a short period of time, you're already over 7,700 followers. And over the years, even before this, you made a lot of money. You live a great life in Bali. What motivated you to start building a personal brand?
Well, over the years, I always built other personal brands, right? So when I was running my company back in Holland, one of my business partners was the face of the course. And yeah, my job was just to build that up, right? So and I never felt the need, everything was cool, everything was running. And I always, growing up, I always heard, yeah, personal brand, that is cool. And you need to have a personal brand because then you can rely on it. But for some reason, I never ever got to do it because everything went well for me, right? I built a business, I earned money, had a life, everything was cool. And eventually, when uh, I decided to do something else, and I was sort of in a transition period where I had all the money, I was living in Bali, I didn't know what I was doing, I was trading NFTs, losing a ton of money, like a ton. And I ended up on Twitter, and I never intended to build a personal brand there. I was there just to talk shit about NFT, say GM good morning, and that was it. And eventually, when Elon Musk took over Twitter and turned it into X, I was like, something. Let's give this Twitter thing or X thing a little bit more. Let's take it serious. So I put my picture on, and then naturally people started to ask me, "What are you doing?" And I was explaining, "Well, yeah, I used to run this business, and now I'm in a transition period. I don't do anything at the moment." And then they said, "What was it?" And then I said, "It was course creation." And basically, then the personal brand was born. And looking back now, it has given me so much. Look, again, I'm not in for the money. I made the money, I invested, I did well for myself. But what a personal brand did for me, looking back now where I am today, is that I made so many connections so fast. And not that I could not do it without a personal brand, but a personal brand attracts a different breed of people towards me. And yeah, that's in a nutshell my personal brand story. But everybody should build a personal brand from day one because you never know when your life change, and you always have something to rely on.
We're similar like that. And I kind of fell into personal brand a little bit. When I was speaking on Clubhouse, I just knew a lot about crypto, and there was a lot of people that were coming in for the first time, and I was enjoying speaking. I had a history of speaking and podcasting and social audio, and I just kept going, and I was like, oh, people are listening to me and they're following me. And it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. And that's when I got invited to speak on a Twitter space one day in January 2022. And I kind of was also just like, why don't I just do Twitter also? Like, and that's where it just went from there. I got addicted. And you talk about meeting a lot of amazing people. That is definitely the best part of this. And it's something that I've leaned into recently, as have you. You've partnered with a lot of big creators, helping them with their courses, their digital products. But this is the Louder podcast. You are an integral part of this business as well. And what is Louder? What does the Louder brand represent to you? What's kind of your vision for it, and what do you think is unique about it?
Well, the thing is that brands that I work with or be in any way, shape, or any way, form, right? I take it very, very seriously. So first of all, I always identify who's the creator behind it. Well, now I'm talking to you, right? And I remember our conversation in the beginning that we just jumped on a call and we talked for, I believe, 2 hours was it, and then immediately there was a connection. So the first thing I always look for when I do partnerships in a way is that I look for where's the connection, and we have a really good connection. You know, we're almost brothers. We fight like brothers even sometimes. Maybe it's funny to to replay one of our discussions about stuff, how we go head to head, because that is cool and that's what brothers do. You know. That's what people do who first of all love each other and are connected with each other and are willing to do something with the same vision. So when I saw you, I saw a talented guy who really had something going around audio. So I was really for me the way to start talking further, and naturally the louder brain started to evolve, where we start talking together. Which direction should it go? And then the vision of the brand louder is yeah, basically to help people grow their audience in a unique way and tie around that like a big community. I'm always have been a community guy in every business that I've built. Community was the forefront, was the soul of everything. And so the vision for Louder from my perspective is that it is a big community where people thrive and learn. And basically what I love about Louder is that it is an entry level a start point for people of their journey, because many creators out there want to become a ghostwriter immediately, or want to become like an influencer, or they want to become the next $10 million course guy. And although ambition is great, you need to start somewhere, and I think that Louder represents a community for people with a dream and who are willing to work hard and to take action. So my vision for the future is that this will become a thriving community that's led by you. You know, you're an incredible leader, and I believe that you can lead this to incredible heights. So yeah, I'm very excited for the future.
Thank you, man. And our partnership is so interesting, our relationship, because when we first started, it wasn't louder and it wasn't, what it is now with the voice and the spaces. I was building if you remember, even I was building, feels like a million years ago because we pivoted like 3 times in a month. I was doing this like content repurposing from YouTube to Twitter. And you were like, hey, we should add like more of a monetization element as a better pitch, or you weren't even saying we, it was you should do this. And I was like, okay, maybe we should like help people build their email list. And then we pivoted from that to maybe we should just build our own email list. And then we were like, found ourselves back in Web3, and I certainly didn't want to be there anymore. And so then we had a long conversation. I remember, which I'm writing a post about that I want to share with people, that I was in my car in the groceries outside the grocery store, just like shoving my face with junk food for like 3 hours. We were on the phone and I basically just had like, I was just searching for answers about like, how did I end up back in creating crypto content, which is the place I did not want to be, even though we saw a white space and it could have been successful, but my heart wasn't in it. And you have been an incredible mentor for me to kind of, you never forced anything on me. You always just showed me different options and helped me find what was really within myself. And what came out of that conversation was, I never fell out of love with social audio from back when I, did the dating app, and then I did Clubhouse and all this stuff along the way. And with Louder, I agree with you. The vision is community, and we've been able to build something really fast and really powerful. I know you've been getting a lot of messages about it, but I can't even describe to you, dude, like the way that my inbox, my comments, like it's starting to really click. It's the first time that every time I tweet now over the last week, really only just this recently, I'm starting to get likes like right away, where that happened when I had the crypto content and I was really engaged. But more recently, it's been a little slower, but I think it feels like it's starting to happen now. And you have a lot of experience like going into all these different communities and learning, and you take masterminds and you get in front of people, you stack skills. Me and Clint Murphy talked about this on the last episode about kind of skill stacking and networking at the same time within these communities. You're now working with the Growth Army community as well. I'm curious, like, what are some of the most important things that you've seen and some of these common threads for success and positivity in nurturing a vibrant community?
Well, yeah. So coming to Twitter yeah, roughly eight. Let's call it X now, right? It's very hard to switch every time. But coming to X like 8 months ago, for me, I was new, so I didn't know what to expect. I was used to build communities for all my businesses I used to run in the past, and even building communities within communities from for my team, so to speak. So I always used to work with teams. I'm not the typical solopreneur. Not that I don't believe in the concept, but I believe if you really want to grow a big business, you're going to have a team. You're going to have to need a team, small or big. That's up to you. Um, so I always was nurturing and fostering communities in my team and outside of the business I run. And then when I come to Twitter, I expected that Twitter was more of a place where people were talking to each other, and but not really like a tight community. And I was pleasantly surprised that there is a strong community on X at this moment. So taking that to brands I work with, especially with people I work with, the common thread most people get wrong about communities and community building is that they make it really complex. They think it's a set of tactics that you need to execute upon, and then voila, there you have a big community. And that's not the case. The case is regarding building communities is communities are led by personalities, and people love to follow a leader with a vision, and that vision doesn't really matter. It can be anything. In your case, you really like to empower people, young creators or creators who really want to build a personal brand with the power of voice, right? That's your mission, that's your belief, and that's incredible. And people are following for you for that. But the other part, you are this strong community. You are this open guy who connects easy with people, and that's why they love you, and that's why your community will thrive. So if you are in the process of building a community, the first thing is that you need to do is always be yourself. Don't try to replicate somebody or try to be somebody else, because it's not going to work. People have this gut feeling inside, right, for something that's authentic and what's not. You can describe it in all theoretical ways and mental models, but in the end of the day, it's all about how does this person feel the first 3 seconds with you, and how does this person feel the first 3 seconds with the persons within the community. If there's a connect, then you're almost 50% there. You only need to deliver great content and have fun, and then your community will grow by itself, and the community will guide you also in which direction they want to grow. And that's in the end of the day what it is about. A community is about a community decision, a community direction, with the leader giving like the rough edges, like we go in this direction.
Yo guys, real quick, if you're enjoying the Louder podcast, you're going to love Louder Spaces. Every week, twice a week, I host spaces on X unlike any other spaces you've heard before. We've created a real audio experience and bring in big influential accounts to discuss topics around personal brand, content, and monetization. We use custom AI audio, react to clips from other podcasts and videos, and we have what's called Amplify, where we bring audience members on stage and everyone in the room likes, comments, and retweets their content and gets them tons of exposure. You could be the next person we blow up. Just come by Louder Spaces every Wednesday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Follow me on X at GregLunt27. See you there. That's really cool. I'm looking forward to that kind of next step where the community almost takes on a life of its own. And it's like you have the founders and the leaders' voices, and then you have the community voice, and that balance and going up and back and creating something way more powerful, because you can't do everything by yourself at the front. You need everyone else behind you and excited and frankly, bringing new ideas to the table that you never would have thought of. One of the things that I've been doing, I don't think we've even talked about this. The last 4 days, bro, I've been doing pop-up spaces. So I do it at night when I go for my walk after the sun goes down. And I've been having like 20, 30 people join these rooms, and we go all kinds of different directions. And it's way more raw, where like the Louder Spaces are way more regimented and everything is highly produced, etc. With these, I just go in, people come in, we come up on stage. We were talking about family dynamics and relationships, and we talked about copywriting, and we talked about juicy dating stories, and we've done all this stuff. Yesterday, we talked about this idea of maybe everyone coming up on stage one by one and reading one page of any book they want. And then we kind of just like talk about the ideas in the book. And the end of that call ended up with me doing like a little preview of it where I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is my Bible. And I know that the Bible for you in your success was Russell Brunson's Dotcom Secrets, right? And that book really played a pivotal role for you. How did that book change your life? And what did you learn from it that was so important to your success?
Well, I remember that back in the day when the book came out, I don't know the exact year, that I immediately got it because of the appeal or the community that ClickFunnels represented, right? I mean, here again, the word community came. I was drawn in by it. And back in the day, you had also like a free community where you can talk with people. And I was amazed how many talented people who were similar to me, you know, a little bit later in life. I was at the time like 37, 38 years old, and you know, it's in society you need to have it all right around that age. But if you don't, then you looked upon like a crazy black sheep, because you don't have the house, you don't have all the traditional things that everybody should go through on a corporate ladder and then retire and die. You know, I was still this guy that's traveling all over the world and was living in every country from a suitcase. So that was weird for a lot of people in my family and in my direct community back home. So discovering that book opened up an idea how to actually become successful. And that sounds weird because Dotcom Secrets is basically a marketing book, but it opened so much more on the sub communication level. It showed me the way that everybody has in its power to become free by follow a certain blueprint from a successful person. And I understood this concept, of course, but I never executed it. So for years I was reading all kinds of books. So, you know, The Power of Now, like you, I read like through and through. I've read like Tim Ferriss' 4 Hour Work Week. I read Tony Robbins' The Giant Within, and oh, it's cool. And I was reading it, and you know the feeling, right? You read a book, you close it and throw it away, and next thing you think, wait, what are you gonna do next? You don't take any action. So Dotcom Secret represented something different. All those things that I've learned in all these other books. But then at the moment I was at a low point in my life where I didn't really had the income that I desired. You know, my life was like all my friends had fancy jobs and fancy cars, and I had nothing. Right, so this was my only chance. So I decided back then and there, you know what? Let me follow this guy. Does he have to say? And I started reading, and each page in that book I followed by the letter. And the funny part was that I met one of my business partners on a whiskey drinking session. We had out of our heads and we were discussing. All of a sudden, this book came up. And I was saying, yeah, I read this thing, it's incredible. He said, yeah, fuck, that's my Bible. I said, no, it's my Bible too. And that's how the connection started. And then we started literally implementing together. So fast forward, a third person came on board who was really good with e-commerce. So the three of us really took that book and underlined each thing and executed it by the letter. And the result was in 2 years, our very first Tucumma Club Award, so the 1 million turnover through one funnel. And that wasn't enough for us, right? We thought, hey, it must be a possibility to go to the Tucumma Club X. And we all had that Tucumma Club X award from somebody else. I believe, I don't even know whose I had on my phone. It was black and white. I couldn't get in color. So it was on my phone, you know, that was my aim. And we kept on executing and investing in ourselves and going to masterminds to get more knowledge, to grow businesses. And yeah, then 2 years after that, we had to hit the 10 million mark, and that was incredible. And all because the start of a book. And everything you read there, a lot of marketers and entrepreneurs read that book and they say, yeah, but it's common sense. Yes, Russell Brunson just repackaged knowledge in a way that it is easy to understand and that is like, you know, universal knowledge. But the only difference there is that he made it so simple for you that he takes you by the hand and that everyone can execute it, regarded your education level or your intelligence. You don't need to be smart. You just need to be able to trust the system and follow the system, and then great things happen. So everybody get that book, follow it. You don't need coaching, so to speak, if you want to start out.
It's funny when people say like, "Oh, that's just common sense. It's so simple." It's like that's a compliment. That was crafted that way. That took many, 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 many hours of intentionality to make it so simple and straightforward. So that's just funny to me that people would react like that. And I love how you bonded over that book. And I wanted to tell you a quick story from yesterday. Again, reading that book, The Power of Now, I got a DM shortly after by someone who said, "Hey, man, thank you for reading that. I'm going through a breakup right now with someone from 7 years. I've been dating them and we just broke up." And I said, "Oh man, I went through a 7 year breakup as well. This wasn't recent, but I dated someone for 7 years. We lived together and we broke up." So I was like, I know how that feels. And I'm glad that the book helped. And that girl who I dated, her birthday is September 26th. I'll always remember that. And when I was doing research for this podcast, I went back to look at your first tweet ever. I wanted to see what it was. And it was on September 26th, the same day that I just got this message from this guy. And do you know what your first tweet was? All it says is ready for some action. That's the whole tweet. And there's no context or anything like that. But I assume it's about let's get down with these NFTs and start flinging things around. And you've obviously pivoted into courses. You touched on that a little bit in that first answer. Can you talk about pivoting content? It's something that a lot of people go through, niching down or pivoting or trying to find your direction, and what that was like for you, and any advice you can give people.
Well, what I can say is that regarding Twitter, right? Building a brand or a business is something else. You need to find like a unique avatar with one problem and solve that problem. That's basically also in the book of Russell Brunson. So if you follow that, you have good guidelines. But regarding your personal brand is different, right? That is where I struggled a lot, because I even 8 months ago, and you can think about like, oh yeah, okay, you build this business with a team, you scale it to $10 million, and then you stepped out and you had this incredible life, and now you don't have any problem with building your personal brand, right? Well, wrong, because regarding your personal brand, everything changes, because you need to have a voice, and the first thing is that everything becomes now internalized. And what I mean by that is all the marketing tactics to write about your avatar, to find your problem, they're all tactics, right, that you can find anywhere. But the moment you need to define you and what you represent in the world, on X or somewhere else, everything changes, because the conversation starts to go inside. You're going to have this conversation with your mind, and your mind is going to tell you all kinds of lies, that it is very hard, and who are you on when you are 48 years old to start talking shit on X? Who's going to listen? Yeah, you built a company in Holland, but nobody knows about it, so now you're going to talk about it on X. Who's gonna resonate with that? So all those internal dialogue that's starting up with you is going to start holding you back. And so that was really, really, really hard. So what I've learned, I'm looking back now to this 8 months, go back into building your personal brand and crafting your story, is that you need to embrace change. If you don't if you're not able to embrace change, you always get stuck. And first of all, you're going to stuck in your head, and you're not going to put things out to see what works. So eventually I said, fuck it. And that's what the tweet was about, ready for some action. And I started to talk about NFTs. And then over time, my bio changed, because I started showing my face. I changed my face from a monkey picture to myself. I started to change my bio, like eat Uncle V. I was Uncle V, can you imagine? Uncle V eat something. I changed it to Virgil Brewster. I went fully doxed. I put my name there in the Web3 space. That is quite weird, but when people show their faces. And then I started to find my way. And if you look at my first bio from like 2 months in, like I said, February, I was talking really weirdly. Like I was like, yeah, I'm going to help her with mindset and business, and very, very fake, and nobody understood. And then the beauty of the community came up, because people started to reach out and they say, hey, listen, I love what you do, but I don't have a clue what you are about. And I'm like, okay, that's clear. I need to make it more clear. So over time, I started working and crafting what are my ideas based on what people perceive of me. I asked the question, hey, I remember saw this post from you a couple of weeks ago. How do you look at me? What do I do? Something in that order. I did something similar, but I didn't post it. I just literally asked people like, hey, what do you think I am? What do you think I do? And then I said, yeah, well, you do something with you live abroad, but the rest I don't know. Oh, I need to make this clear. So, and every time with this little change, people gave me feedback. They say, "Oh, maybe you can share what you do," because on my bio you see the $10 million thing I did, and I never loved that. I never wanted to flaunt that. But after speaking to so many people, they actually said, "Hey, you need to lead with some social proof, because yeah, you can talk how good everything is, but if you never done it, you need to show or prove in some way that you have done it." And that is where then that part starts to move, where I start showing the Dotcom Lookup X Award, where I start talking about that journey and basically shared my expertise about it. That people say, "Oh, this guy knows what he talks about." So a big tip for people is here: one, find your voice. Don't be afraid to change. Two, always share what your social proof is, and even if it's tiny. I can imagine maybe you have a tiny thing, but if you achieve something tiny, for example, you have overcome fear of spiders. I don't know, I make something up. Well, share that with this world, but because there are always people who will resonate with that, and always people who will follow you for that. And over time, you will add more social proof to it. And when you're clear on what you do, you can, when you can articulate clearly what you do, yeah, then you are there, and the rest will be guided by your community.
Yeah, I think you're right with the bio. There's really like the three elements, right? It's like who you are, what you've done, and what the reader's going to get by following you. And that what you've done part, everyone that I coach, I say the same thing. It's like, can we apply a number to it? Is there any way to quantify what you've done so that making $10 million selling courses, I mean, that's a slam dunk. You know what I mean? You have to share that. You have to find some way. I was working with a kid. He obviously hasn't generated any money. He's in his teenage years, but he was number 8 in his class in high school. I'm like top 8, and he had a cool, he studied, or no, it was in college, his first year in college, and he was like a mechatronics engineer or something. I was like, you got to say that shit. And like, you're top 8 as a mechatronics engineer. I was like, okay, yeah, like you're doing that. So yeah, you nailed that, and people really need to think about. I guess just a quick note, we're on it because I think it's important, and we have a lot of people listening to this that are creating personal brands and want to have great X profiles. People go to the profile, they look at your profile picture, then they go to your banner. Okay, so the profile picture's got to be like a good size of your face, nice bright color, clean. Look at the camera. Probably you don't have to, but that's nice. And then the banner kind of sets the stage, right? Like a one-liner that creates a narrative. You don't want too much stuff going on in there. You just want to set the stage and the energy. And then the bio can go into all the details where you talk about the numbers and who you are and what they're going to get. And then the pinned tweet, there's your story, or there's like a huge accomplishment, or there's the long form, let me dive into this person. So just think about that, people, when you're creating your profiles. It's the picture, the banner, the bio, the pinned tweet, in that order. And you've created like all that social proof you talk about. One of the things that you've shown over and over again with some of these courses that you're helping launch is this 7-step method. We talked about this on Louder Spaces in order to validate and go to market with a product. Can you walk us through that really quickly? I think people are going to find a lot of value in that. It's very data driven. You don't just do it on gut. There's things that you need to look at in order to say, hey, I really have something here. What are those 7 steps?
Well, basically, the first one is that you need to identify what is the problem that you like to solve. So basically, maybe take it a little step back. And I know we put it into 7 steps, but they're not really 7 steps. If you execute it you well, there's a sort of a storyline that you need to go through. And so the first thing that you need to understand is what are you passionate about? Because it is very vague. When you lead with your passion, and everything will go well. That is a lie. It's not going to happen. If you only lead with your passion, that's not enough. But you need to understand what makes you tick in order to start somewhere, because you need to start somewhere. And again, it can change over time, but you need to start somewhere. So in my case, let's take me as an example. Let's take you as an example. Is maybe easier. That you are really passionate about social audio, right? Like speaking and hosting spaces and jumping in people's DMs. You're really excited about it. So a natural start point would be to start there, because that's what you're passionate about. So that's your first step. So the next step, what you want to achieve then is, okay, what problem can I solve? Well, you just explained a little briefly, right? You can help people a little bit with their branding. You make sure that they understand how to speak well, how to articulate well, and how to connect with people in social spaces and in social communities in general. So Then you pick one problem. Well, the problem is, how do I made myself heard? How do I grow my audience? Maybe something in that order of thinking. So then you pick just one problem, and then you offer one solution. Because the mistake most people make is that they want to solve all problems for people. And you're very knowledgeable, probably. You know a lot. You don't know everything about audio. You probably know something about email. Good writer. You know everything about copywriter. You know everything about hooks. So you know so many things, but you cannot bombard that at those people. So that's why it's important to choose one problem and offer one solution. So when you have that dialed in, so you have one, you know what your passion is, you have your one problem, one solution, then the next step is for who. Because again, here you can go share this information with everybody. But when you want to be heard, you want to talk to a specific type of person. I don't say speak to one person, but a specific type with the same characteristics. So you could talk to now early people who just come to a platform, who really want to build their personal brand. They start out, and maybe you can dive a little deeper by define them a little bit deeper, to say, okay, what are they about, where they live, what do they earn, what's their income level, that sort of things. You have these external elements about your avatar, but what you want to understand deeply are the internal pain points. So you want to understand the internal pain points for people to communicate on an emotional level. And this is where I discussed previously, these are not steps because it flows into each other. You need to understand that people buy desires and outcomes. They don't buy a product. And the only way how they do that with an emotional connection. They need to feel your message. They don't need to read or hear your message. So that's why you need to understand what their deep internal motivator is. It can be that they want to change their life. They want to see the kids grow up. They want to work less to be more with their spouse. That is more like of an internal reasoning. So the moment you have that, you go then to the next stage, and the most important stage of it all. When you know your passion, you know the problem, you have this one solution, you know everything about this avatar, you need to understand what do they need from you. And this is very, very specific. You can offer the world. You could say, yeah, I can show you how to host spaces, or I can show you how to be a better speaker on a space. But that is something that you are passionate about. Now you like to understand what your audience, your specific avatar needs from you. And the only thing by doing that is by asking them a couple of questions. What's your biggest problem? Have you ever looked at some solution in the market before? If yes, then you probably have a good validation. Then, if then the next question is, if I'm gonna bring something cool, within the louder space, I'm gonna bring something cool to the market. Would you buy that? So you set pre-frame the next question. They say yes. Well, what would you pay for it? That's an important part, because I was speaking previously about the mind that's holding you back, and also as a creator, entrepreneur, the mind is holding you back in pricing. The subject of pricing is a topic for a whole podcast. But to get the exact information from your audience, they will help you determine the price, and most of the time they will share 2 to almost 3 times higher the price that you expect it to be. So you can position yourself as such. So when you understand what they want, the immediate response of people is to go and create something. And that is not something that I do and never did. So what I do, I'm gonna use a concept that you sell before you make. What does it mean? I'm gonna test my thesis. Of this idea that I have, this product that I have in mind, I'm gonna test it with my audience. How? Most people jump immediately to cohort. Well, I build a step in between. What I'm going to say to my people I work with, know what? Get some people in one-to-one, sell to them a one-to-one package, and you're going to teach them what you have learned in the validation process. So what happens there is that you created a paid laboratory, a paid environment where you're going to experiment, where the community is going to guide you in the direction that you're going to go. And that's the beauty. And the data that you collected previously in the validation process is quite good, but the best data you're going to get from people who actually pay, because those paid people are going to take your product very seriously. So everything they say about the data, everything they say about your product, about where you're going to go, about the modules or the direction or your teachings or everything inside content wise, Their voice is the most heavy data you can get because they're paid for it. And then in that process, then when you have done that a couple of times, then you're going to do the same experiment but on massive scale, and that is called the cohort. And then is the cohort. And I always say many people think that the cohort is the end destination, but the cohort is just the beginning. It is a fundamental platform to build your business upon, where you're going to create a lot of different digital products, which I refer to as digital real estate. You know, you're going to create your own real estate empire online. And from there on, the community is going to guide you what to build next, what to build next. And eventually, after that process, then you're going to make a digital course. You're going to package the cohort knowledge. You're going to revalidate it again on a smaller scale. And then you package that in a logical order for them, where they go on a journey from A to B, never from A to K. You're going to solve one problem. And the beautiful of this model is that you, after they reach B, you can deliver a new product or service that takes them from B to C, and etc. So that's in a nutshell how you build like an educational business. And it takes time, but it's worth to take these steps.
If you're listening to this, you need to timestamp this section, or I guess I've timestamped it depending on what platform you're watching. This is something you should be bookmarking and coming back to, because first of all, I've watched this play out with Virgil launching courses for lots of major creators that are having a lot of success on X. And it's funny because some of the guys who I know Virgil's met with, but then I saw that they weren't end up working together. I've looked at some of their results and heard through the grapevine, and maybe they didn't go as well. So there's a lot of data to support Virgil's method. And he doesn't call it a 7-step process, but that's what I did when he was explaining it to me one day. So I'm just going to repeat them for people because I think it's really important. Number 1, identify what problems you can solve. Number 2, create your ideal avatar. Number 3, talk to those people and ask them about their pain points. Number 4, create a rough outline of what you could build to potentially solve that pain point given your problem solving that you identified in step 1, what you're good at. Then you're going to take that back to them in step 5 and say, hey, if I built this, how much would you pay for it? And then number 6, you build it. And number 7, you deliver it. And you do. And, number 7, we start going down into the launching phase. And we can talk about that in a minute. But, the course that you built, you famously made $10 million. And now you are more on the coaching and advisory side. You do have, you are building your own courses still that are helping people build courses, but you're also working directly one-on-one with people. And I'm curious, did you have to go through some of that same validation for your coaching service in terms of figuring out the product market fit on X, or was it just so blatantly obvious that you were needed?
No, it was not obvious that I was needed. It was a validation process. Similarly, it was exactly, first of all, I identified who I wanted to work with. And I knew from my previous business in the e-commerce course that I used to run, where I worked with absolute beginners, which is a blessing because you're going to see people from having nothing evolve to making their first 2, 3, 4,000. And eventually I have helped people who now have made 10K, 100K and started different businesses. And they say, oh, wow, thank you that you were this springboard for me in the beginning. And I enjoyed that. But now I realized that I changed as well over time. So I knew that I didn't want to work with absolute beginners. So absolute beginners who have no idea yet. And yes, I explain and I teach how to do that. And I will bring out the course for you guys who are absolute beginners, where I explain at each and every step how to do it. But I know that my passion lies in scaling eventually. So actually building a business. And so I needed to test that out because in my opinion, Twitter was only beginners. X was a platform where only noobs were talking about NFTs, and that was it. That's what I really believed. But that was absolutely not true. I met incredible entrepreneurs who have built an audience, who have an incredible talent, who has honed in on on those talents. Well, you are one of those people, right? You know, you honed into your skill, your speaking ability. Look, I worked for television for over 20 years, and I can tell you, Greg, if you go on television, you can smash it. You have a raw talent for asking questions, to talk and to speak and to pivot, you know, and that is rare. It's not hard to learn. That's something that you need to have. So. Uh, meeting that type of individuals like yourself, I was testing that these. Oh, can I take their ideas and their talent and build and scale it into a business instead of being the creator solopreneur spectrum? I really want to make that transition for people who want that. So been testing that, and of course, first of all, I started to launch courses because that's a start point. And now, in the second wave of validation, which I'm in, I'm now starting to connect with people for the second round. And for example, the Growth Army is an example where I helped them very briefly in the beginning because we didn't have much time, and now I'm advising them on the back end to actually now build a business from it. Similarly, what we do with you, where I advise you on the backside, you know, from how to build louder into a business. And I'm very excited for that, you know, and that really makes me sing. And I know now I see more and more entrepreneurs reaching out to me for specifically that. And of course, the beginners are reaching out to me as well, and I help them and I push them to people like you. I have even I use Text Blaze, is like this cool AI tool that you only need to give a code in your computer and it gives this text. So every time if somebody comes to me like, yeah, I need to build an audience and I don't know how to find my voice, I hit backslash G, and then it says, "Go talk to Greg. He's the resource." So you know that's the beauty of what loud. I think louder is that louder is the perfect spot for you if you are starting out. It doesn't matter where you are. You know, even if you don't want to do spaces. You know, I know louder is audio driven and speak your voice, but I believe that as a beginner, finding your voice, building your personal brand, get your first feet wet in what I'm gonna do, your first ideas about products, you know, your very first monetization thing. I think louder is than the space, and that is an incredible platform. So to come to the conclusion of it all is that I work with people who are higher up the scale, who already have an audience, a substantial amount of audience, who really want to scale, and I love to be there. Which basically is that building businesses without building a business is one of the best spots to be in.
Yeah, it's great. And the networking side of it is amazing too. You just continue to surround yourself with winners and new ideas and ways to scale, and you work your way up. And so we talked about kind of the validation process and the pricing process, and then you get to the launch stage, and something that you are incredibly bullish on, and rightfully so, is that you really shouldn't be launching unless you have a newsletter with a real list that you can send to. That's going to be your most effective way to generate sales. Why are email newsletters so important? And talk about the building block, your email newsletter, and what you're trying to do with it.
Well, yeah, a newsletter. So don't get confused now. Like, I need to start a newsletter like The Hustle or Milk Road or something like that. You don't, even if you don't start a newsletter, you need to understand that email is the way if you like to sell online the organic way, because many people make the mistake to try to sell on a social media platform, and it works until a certain extent. But the thing is, X is a place to make noise, to entertain, to educate, to form relationships, and it's not really a place yet. We don't know what Elon's going to take this, because if you read Elon's ideas, it's going to be a marketplace, and probably it will be a space to sell. But at this given moment in time, it is not. So you always want to create a buying environment that you control. I specifically call it a buying environment because you need to warm people up over time. It's not that you are going to put out your offer and then magically everybody's going to buy. There's only a very small percentage. Most successful launches and who are out there are built over a long time over what I call a pre-launch sequence or a warm-up sequence. And the email is the best way to do that, because there you can bring people from X, you can bring them to your newsletter, and they're in your house. You invite them in your beautiful villa where you show them all the rooms, you share your personality, and you share with them what outcomes they can achieve, and eventually you're gonna reach out to them. So that email list is the center point of your launch. So if you're thinking about selling something, hold take a step back, especially once you want to make it successfully. Take a step back and use this virtue of patience where you're going to focus on bringing people from X to your email list, and on your email list you're going to share great content about the desire and how to tips and all those stuff you're going to share to really win their heart over, and eventually over time then you can sell. So then the very first question people always ask me is like, how big should my list be? Well, not big at all. People believe, oh, I need 10,000 before I can launch. If you have a list of 1,000 people that you nurtured well with the right message, right? You brought them in on the premises what you promise and what you are about, and you bring 1,000 people in, and then you go to a launch sequence, then you are going to do well. And I always say, manage expectations, because your first launch is not about making a ton of money. It is possible. We've seen it happening. We've seen it happening with the Growth Army. We've seen it happen with Ollie, but still, those are not exceptions to the rule. If you do well, you have a big chance of achieving that. But it will not always be like this. You need to understand and manage your expectation that your very first launch is only for you to learn what your audience want, and over time you're going to stack great products on top of that. You need to have a long horizon in the education space. It will not happen over time. And when you do this properly, your email list will ignite everything around you. It will improve your life. It will improve lives of others on massive scale. So 100% the start point is an email list.
It's like zooming out 30,000 foot view on the long tail, the sale, the business, all this stuff. It's not about just rushing and it's like, oh, I have this great idea, I need to push it. And it's something that I battle with a lot, bro, because Louder is very new and there's a lot of excitement around it. And I find myself wanting to go, 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 but it's like, let's do this building block by building block, which is, you really shill your stuff too much. I wish you will. At the end, we'll have you talk a little bit more about it. Virgil's got a great newsletter that teaches people how to build courses, and it's talks about all the stuff we're talking about today, the fundamental principles in order to generate money online. And this mindset game and thinking about it in this certain construct is so important. It's really ground zero for all the tactical stuff that we're talking about. And I've heard you talk about how like people can be afraid to sell, and that their beliefs around money are messed up. And money, you said money becomes evil in the hands of evil people, but money becomes holy and magical in the hands of great people. So it's not money that's the problem, it's the person. And can you talk about money as a form of energy, and then how people can start coming from a place of abundance and bring that into their lives?
Yeah, it is. I definitely love the great question that you bring that up, because that's the struggle of most entrepreneurs. And I mean most entrepreneurs, and even ones who do like 200 million a year struggle with this same thing. It's called like a money block, and it all starts, I believe, in my opinion, it starts with our education system, right? Where they teach you that you need to exchange time to earn money, and if you have a lot, it is evil, right? That is where it all starts. But then over time, you need to change the way you look at money, because like you said, money is energy, and it is not a printed bill. It is energy that exchanged from hand to hand, and it will be there anyway. You can be with it, or you can be against it, but the energy of money will always be there. If you don't accept it into your life, it will flow to somebody else's. So you need to understand that when you start building your business, it is your duty to charge high prices. And let me explain why. You don't sell a product or a service to become better yourself. Yes, of course, you want to become financially better for yourself. But in the end of the day, when you position yourself in a way that your product or service helps others and that you cannot impact only one person, but you can impact generations, then money will flow automatically towards you. So, what do I mean by that? When you help one person, let's say you help this person to become a better speaker on spaces, what will happen? This person will gain confidence. This person is going to build a business. This person is going to attract the right partners and people in their lives, which will probably result in maybe a family and kids. And the kids that are growing up will be fueled with fundamental beliefs about money and life and business because they got that information from you. So these kids will grow up, hopefully, and eventually will share it on to others. So what you do in the world, your position in the world is to impact generations, where you have one person that helps another person. And when you charge that person a high price, this person will value that. This person will take his less money that he saved to put in your product, which will help this person move forward, and he will take it seriously. So then all of a sudden you can not look at yourself as a money wolf, a hungry money wolf. I charge high prices because I get better. No, you charge high prices so that people can get the best possible result because they take your product seriously. And that cycle will enhance, that will turn, it will become a flywheel that will start to spin in their lives, but also in your lives. So the more people you're going to help, the more income you're going to generate, the more time you will get for yourself to create better products and services to help even more people. So money isn't evil. Money is a means to exchange products and services and enhance each other's lives in the right hands. I know maybe this sounds a little bit too floaty in the sky up there, but I have this little exercise that I want to share with you here about that you can see that money is not something evil like abstract, but that it is energy. I want you to imagine that money is on the streets, and then in the next day or so, the next 2 days coming towards you, you're going to find like $100 somewhere. You're gonna find it in a sales process. You're gonna receive it, or you're gonna earn it in another way. If you project yourself, I'm going to make $100, then what will happen? Your mind is going to start reverse engineer subconsciously how to get that done. Don't get too physically obsessed with it. I need $100, otherwise my life ends. No, you're going to say, I'm going to find or make $100 in a couple of days, and I let the world show me the path. Try that experiment, and it may sound weird, but that changed my life. That is what I used to do. The thing that back in the day when we did the run up to the 10 million, my business partners and I used to say out loud, we are going to make $1 million. We didn't know how, we didn't know what, we spoke it out. We spoke out the words, and then over time we used to follow the books. We started to educate ourselves. We met incredible people. People started to believe in our story. People started our methods start to work. Eventually, it rolled out almost by itself. And yes, you need to take some action to do this. But if you follow like fearless action and you follow your gut, money will come to you.
It's like when you're on X, I look at it almost as if you follow the right people and you create the right feed, you're brainwashing yourself slowly but surely that all these things are possible, where you come from maybe a completely broke mindset and then you see everyone making 10K a month and talking about how they're doing it, and you just like, oh, this is really real, and you start to take action and believe it, and it's so important. And there's this massive positive flywheel effect, as you mentioned. And I want you to know, man, that I think you are right in the center of the positive flywheel that's happening right now on Money X, and you are impacting generations. I know for me, you are changing my life. I'm incredibly grateful for your mentorship and your friendship and your brotherhood. And I think we're going to have a very, very long-standing relationship. I admire you. I love you. I'm grateful that you're on the show today. And this is where you get to talk a little bit more about your email newsletter and anything else you want to leave the people with.
Wow, yeah, jump on my newsletter. The link is in my bio on X. No, it's just, uh, I only I love to work with people who love what I do, and you should apply the same mindset, right? If you don't want to make a course or build a course, don't go there. If you truly are interested, jump on it, and we build this incredible relationship. So yeah, the building block is something that I'm passionate about because it's basically my life lessons in written form. Don't expect their very theoretical models or how to build stuff. I share just little stories that you can implement in your life directly, and then the results will follow. Literally, I only share what worked for me and worked for many of my clients. And I know if you are interested and you put your heart into it, it will work for you.
Virgil's X account and his newsletter will be in the descriptions, of course. Virgil, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.